Good morning, y'all, for the next few seconds anyway. This is the portion of the show where I go ahead and click the button, leave this little graphic up, let all the notifications go out, and so folks can join us when we do actually go live. For those of you watching this on playback, you can go ahead and scrub forward a little bit until that graphic disappears. And because that's when we actually go live and I say hello to folks. But for right now, we just kind of sit here and wait for the minute hand to get to the top of the hour. Then I push a little button and say, hey, y'all, happy Sunday. Getting ready to start a whole new week. And a lot has been going on around here. A lot has been going on everywhere. Who am I kidding? It's just been a crazy week. I didn't have a video again this morning, but those of you who follow me and those of you who attended all also, you know what happened this week. We'll get into that in a couple of minutes, though. Right now, let's go down the list here and see who we have joining us. Excuse me. Boy, just finished either a late breakfast or an early lunch. Capicola and eggs. Excellent stuff. Love it. Anyway, we have Lewis Denton checking in from North Carolina. Ice Cream 62 from Italy. Everything is going great here. Steve Thomas checking in from Arkansas. Thomas Grimm stopping by. William Stauffer. Michael Mazalik. I've been mispronouncing your name the entire time, but I would have to imagine you're getting kind of used to it. Pardon me. See Dave Kraus, Dave Matthews, Steve Nealon over at Harneal Media, who sponsors Mark Lindsay CNC.com. I'm getting ready to start doing some physical work on the website to bring it up to date, separate a few things and what have you. I've been working on it in the background. Steve doesn't even know what I'm doing. He's probably rolling his eyes right now going, oh, great, thanks. Well, I'll do it, Steve. No worries, no worries. Let's see, Steve Late over there in London. Motorsport, welcome aboard. Okay, I do not read the Cyrillic alphabet, so I have no idea how to pronounce your name or even attempt to do it. But hello, Russia from the U.S. Kurt Briegel from Wisconsin. Lee Dale checking in from Georgia. William Starkey Bill from Cleveland checking in. David Pingle in Wisconsin. Paul Stewart. Let's see. Ronald Ledger in Quebec. Jeff down in Arizona. JMJ Love Dance. Let's see who else we got here. Richard Canton in from Michigan. Mr. Matt Awesome Wood Things Haas checking in, I believe from PA. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let's see. Aaron Hansen in New Jersey. Rob Lemke in Campbell River. Let's see. Chip Frappier from Central Florida. And Michael Johnston, I believe you're in Scotland, if I'm not mistaken. Aaron Powell over in the UK also. Jeff in Connecticut. Woody Wan, thanks for coming back. Let's see. Jack Painter in Lower Michigan. Eric Cardenas in Guatemala. Wow, welcome aboard. Bobby Lazareski from Macedonia. Wow. Man, truly international. This is cool. Chad Garcia from Tulsa. Let's see. Okay, Michael Mazalik says I got it correct. It's pronounced Michael. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Ton Hanneman checking in. Wade Nash in Southern Cal. John, the Great White Wing, okay, from Massachusetts. I'm not going to say it. I'm glad you were the one to say it. I'm not going to say it. Let's see. Jigsy's Workshop from Cork, Ireland. Wow. And Ruslan Kanchurin. Okay, now I am really, really, really bad with the Cyrillic alphabet. So if I'm getting close in saying Ruslan, please let me know. Give me a high sign, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to either side. It doesn't matter. I try not to butcher people's name. Would be checking in from Portugal. And Aaron Powell, Rob Sandstrom down in Temecula, California. Welcome aboard, everybody. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. I really do appreciate it. We'll get into, first off, the reasons why I did not have time to get a video out this week. As you probably can imagine, I was working on the shop shed, and I made a major milestone. I'll go ahead and share that up real quick. I went from this, where we left off in the last video, to this, where we are today. That took almost 10 yards of gravel to fill in that pad. Now I still have to compact it. It's kind of piled up higher in the center, and I'll be doing some leveling and compacting, but basically the gravel pad is, for all intents and purposes, finished. So I can put that behind me. The bulk of the hard work is done, and I can move on, thankfully. I'm really eager to put this behind me. So that was one of the reasons. The other reason was the Vectric User Group Meeting was this weekend, over Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And because of lockdowns and quarantines, etc., 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 they had to cancel their trip over here to the U.S. It was supposed to be held down in San Diego. And as you can well imagine, it wasn't. So it was a virtual user group meeting. And I got to tell you, if you missed it, you really missed a lot. Now, it was done in a series of video presentations that was live on their end. Well, it was live everywhere, but on their end, they started at reasonable hours, as you can well imagine. Why wouldn't they? But me being on the west coast of the United States and them being in the UK, their first presentation was 3 o'clock in the morning, my time. And for some reason, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, I had a hard time falling asleep. And then when I did fall asleep, I woke up real early. I was awake for the introduction and the first video before I got to go back to bed. It was a fabulous event. Now, all of the presentations were done through their YouTube channel and through a website dedicated to the user group meeting. And all of those videos are up on their YouTube channel. The problem is the live chat that happened while the presentations were running is not included in those videos. So there were questions asked and answers given during those presentations that, unfortunately, if you didn't see them live, you're going to miss out on. But the conversation is continuing down in the comments section. I would encourage you to check out all of the presentations from the user group meeting. It really was a fantastic resource of information. I mean, a whole bunch of little tips and tricks that were picked up along the way, along with the greater product, project, and technique demonstrations. I mean, there was so much info that came out over the course of these 3 days. My head is still spinning. And there were tips, tricks, techniques, large and small, given out over the course of those 3 days that I had no clue existed in this software. Just goofy little things. Let me show you one real quick here. Bring up Aspire and make sure that I am screen sharing, and I am. I'll go ahead and center up my screen. And this is just a little goofy tip that Becky put into one of the presentations that almost without a second thought. She was making a stylized little line. So she drew a rectangle, and the size doesn't really matter here. And I'll go ahead and center that up horizontally. But then she went into node edit mode with that selected, and she went in, and I'm using a keyboard shortcut I, a hover over the center portion of that span. And this span here, the same thing, using the letter I to insert a point. We'll then hold down Control and tap the letter H on the keyboard. And I don't know if you saw that little vertical line all of a sudden show up. This has gone into mirror, the mirror command. And we'll select this point, hold down Shift, select this point. So I have both of those 2 points active. And now I'm just using my cursor right and left keys to nudge them both out. And it mirrors, it does both sides at the same time. And that'll work in either direction, just using those cursor keys. And I thought, what a cool little tip. What a cool little trick to get some stylized patterns going on within a project. But I never would have even thought of that. And again, it was just select the vector, tap N to go into node edit mode, and then hold down the Control key and tap the letter H to bring up that, you'll see a dotted pink line right in the center. And this is the mirror command for node editing. Select one, hold down Shift, select the other, then just use the cursor right and left keys to get it where you wanted. I had absolutely zero idea that such a thing existed. And it's just a little detail that was really, really cool. It was a whole bunch of little things like that that were done all over this user group meeting. So anyway, I've ranted and raved about that for enough. I highly encourage you to go back and check out those videos. It really was worth the entire series. It was worth every second. So let's go down the list here and see if we've got a few questions. Thomas Grimm, thank you for your contributions to the user group meeting. I didn't contribute at all. I was there to learn, but thank you. William Stauffer also talking about the users group meeting was amazing. It really was. And I know a lot of people love the online format. But personally, I can't wait to go meet these people in person and be able to spend a little bit more time talking to them and chatting. I've got a few suggestions that I couldn't really give in a live chat. And I have a bunch of questions that just don't relate to any of the topics that were involved in this year's group. But boy, was it a lot of great information. Okay, let's scroll down the list here and see. Well, we don't have we don't have a bunch of questions right now, but Dave Matthews brings up an excellent little point. And if you can remember, Dave, I don't remember which video it was. I want to say it was the efficient template, the efficient machining or the efficient use of templates presentation. But Becky did an example of creating stacked text that has to be the simplest demonstration I have ever seen of that technique. And I would highly encourage you to go back and check that out. I get a lot of questions about doing a tutorial on stacked text, and I have resisted simply because I thought the one that Dan did last year was probably the simplest one I have ever seen, and I really didn't have anything to add to the conversation. Well, the demonstration of doing stacked text that Becky did, and Dave just confirmed it, it was the efficient machining presentation the last day of the conference. So it's one of the most recent videos there. She showed a method that was like, it took her like 5 minutes to design the whole thing. And then she separated off into layers that were each independently editable and saved it as a template file so that you could save one sign. You do a stacked text wedding sign, for example, and then in 2 months you need to do another one real quick. You can open up that template, change the names, change the dates, recalculate the toolpaths, and you're done. It took like a minute and a half to make the changes and then recalculate it. I'm still kind of resisting the I'm still hesitant to do a video on stacked text simply because between her video this week and Dan's video from last year, and I'll link both of them in the description box of this video. Give me about 10 minutes after we finish going live. I'm still hesitant because I don't know that I have anything to add to the conversation. All I would be doing would be remake their video in my voice. And I just don't see that as being beneficial. So I'll make a note, okay, to go ahead and include the link to both of those videos in the description. Also, I have not cut a stacked text design, and I'm still hesitant to presume to try to show somebody how to do something I've not done myself. I have a major philosophical problem with that. So I may or may not do a stacked text tutorial. It won't be anytime soon. I have too many other things in line. So it's just, it'll have to fit in somewhere down the line. But okay, let's see. Jigsy's Workshop says, I think Aspire is excellent, but it's very expensive. They should do a monthly subscription service like Adobe. I'm not much for subscription services, mainly because I don't like recurring payments. I want to be one and done and have it done and over with. And in the great grand scheme of things, if you are running a business, you can easily recoup the cost of any of that software. I firmly believe that tools are not an expense. They are an investment, because the return you're going to get on that investment should more than pay for it the first few times you use it. Now, if you have to get a special tool to do a certain job, obviously that has to be taken into account when you bid that job. But if it's a tool that you're going to use multiple times, I just don't see any benefit in paying for that over time. When you're one and done, you're finished and it's over with. But having said that, having that option, if you like that type of option, my suggestion would be to make that suggestion to the folks at Vectric. They do listen to people. If you email their support or developers or marketing team or what have you, they do listen to us, their customers. Email them and make that suggestion. They may offer that option for folks who don't want to spend the money to buy the to buy the software. Personally, what I did, you just, this is for US folks, wait until you get your income tax refund and use that. That's what I did. It is a large chunk of change. It really is. I know. I get that. It's very expensive. But I've made it back, and I've had Aspire now for a little over, well, kind of going on 2 years now. This is September. So about 18 months I've had Aspire. And I've made back my investment, believe me. So let's see. Let's see. Chad Garcia, can you design parametric shapes on VCarve Aspire to create parametric furniture or wall art? Yeah, and Dave Matthews answers that question right below him. Vectric software does not do parametric drawings at all. It's it's not that type of software. It's more for the organic, decorative, bas relief type of modeling. It's not a parametric software, so no. Let's see. Joni Jensen wants to know, are we able to view these classes at a later date since I wasn't able to view any live? Yes. Every single one of these video presentation is on Vectric's YouTube channel. I'll put a link to their channel in the description box of this video. But if you just go onto YouTube and in the YouTube search bar type in Vectric Ltd, it'll come right up. And then just go to their channel. If you use the Vectric software, you should be subscribed to their channel, because there are some things over there that are not in the video tutorials. Some of the video tutorials are hosted on YouTube, some of them are not. But yeah, it's well worth the subscription. But every presentation that was done through the live user group meeting is on their YouTube channel. So let's see. John Robinson. John from Legacy has 3 awesome Stack Text videos also. He usually is a contributor for the Vectric seminars. Legacy Woodworking is another good source of tutorials. They're an excellent source. Legacy, let's see, there are a couple of others. I'll put a link to Legacy. Avid is a good source. They are starting to do live streams, weekly live streams that show a lot of information. Sammy and Corey from Avid did a couple of presentations to include non-ferrous metals, advanced tool pathing for aluminum and brass. That was real intriguing. But, you know, that's... See, I'm trying to think. There are so many sources out there. I'll put Vectric and Legacy links to both of those in the description of this video. So, let's see. Okay, Rob Sandstrom's commenting on Becky's video presentation. Not sure it would be beneficial for newer people. She went fast. Yeah, but the beauty of it is you can keep going back. That's what I do. I pause, I go back, and I do it twice myself to make sure that I've got it down. You know, that's how I learn, is by doing. I mean, I can watch videos and read books all day long, but until I get in and actually do it, it doesn't stick. So... let's see. She did use a lot of layers, and she kept everything on separate layers so that each individual component or element is editable, which saves a lot of time. But again, she set up the file once and saved it as a template so that the next time you have to go in and load it, it took maybe 2 minutes to change names and dates, recalculate the toolpaths, preview, and you're done. So let's see. Oh, Jigsy's workshop says his wife bought the software for him, so it's like a loan. Yeah, but that's kind of like a loan you could never repay because, believe me, I've been married for 32 years, and I don't know what it is. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I am not complaining. It's just a fact of life. They will look at you and go, "What was that you said last April?" And I'm like, "I don't remember what I had for breakfast." So, Dave Matthews also has a good point. There are also projects posted in your V and Company account that sometimes include free design and make files. It's a good way to collect extra clip art. That is true. And usually, not always, but usually when there's a new release, like we go from version 10 to 10.5, more clip art is included. And that can be in the form of 2D vectors, 3D models, different categories, or just adding to various categories. So, let's see. She's only mentioned the loan like 56 times. Lucky you. That's a low number. And of course, my better half chimes in. Yeah, I remember. You said. Yeah. Look, a guy doesn't forget. You don't have to keep reminding us every 6 months. So, let's see. Kurt Briegel, can you link to their video with permission on your YouTube channel? There being a Vectric YouTube site. Yes, I can link them. I will. In fact, there's always a link down in the bottom of the description. That always a link that says for more information on Vectric software. It's a link to vectric.com. Believe me when I say that putting a link to someone else's YouTube channel or someone else's website in the description of your video is always welcome. It's always welcome. So, and in fact, this is kind of way off of the subject of CNC or Vectric or anything, and kind of inside baseball for YouTube. It is every video creator's hope that folks will subscribe, that they will hit the like button, because that does help us. It when YouTube sees that interaction between us and the viewers, the creators and the viewers, they tend to want to promote the video a little bit more and put it in front of more eyes so we get more people watching. And we also hope people will share the video, share the channel with friends who may be interested in it, because that again gets it in front of more people who can use this information. So if a big company like Legacy or Avid or Axiom posts a video that is not unlisted or not private, well, if it's private, you can't find it anyway. But if it's made public for public consumption, they will always say at least thank you for sharing their video or linking that video. So, yes, they would have no problem with me sharing their links. So let's see. Jim Wilkerson, what session can I learn how to import a JPEG image and make it work in VCarve Pro? There are a bunch. Rob Sandstrom, as he says, excuse me, Becky did it in her Zootopia session, which was one of the first videos from the user group meeting. I've got a couple myself, but it may be a little bit different. And I'll put a link to that one. Let's see, JPEG. I'll put a link to that one down in the description of this as well. But Becky's Zootopia presentation, she showed basically how she took a photo of a rhino and traced that photo to cut it out. V carving is a little bit different. It's a lot more involved. It can get a lot more involved. But, and it also depends on how you want to use that JPEG. If you want to trace the lines and then V carve them, that's one procedure. If you just want to trace an outline and cut out that outline or cut out a shape, that's another procedure. So I'll put links to the Vectric YouTube channel, and you can go back yourself and find Becky's Zootopia video. It's one of the first ones they posted from this weekend, Thursday morning, I believe it was. And then my videos on importing a bitmap image and doing a bitmap trace on it. Something that I wanted to address, because I'm still getting a lot of questions about it, and that is joining vectors. People having a hard time with vectors they just can't get closed for some reason. And I've done a couple of videos on this subject, but it bears repeating because new people join all the time, and sometimes the use of layers isn't really all that clear. There are only a few rules when it comes to joining vectors or making a closed vector. The number one rule is you cannot connect a vector in the middle of another span. Now, let's take a look at this circle here, for example. If I select it and go into node editing mode, we can see there are basically 4 points here. Each vector here between these points is a span of a vector. We can also see, because there is one green dot here, or point here, this is a closed vector. I cannot draw a line. Let me come out of node editing. I can physically draw a line from here to here and accept that line. But that vector is not joined to this one, nor can it be joined. This is a closed vector. This is a closed, well, it's an open vector. But because this is a closed vector, it cannot be joined to it. So it doesn't matter what shape this is. It doesn't matter if this has more vectors connected to it. Those cannot be joined. One of two things has to happen. Either this needs to be trimmed away so that this whole thing can become one closed vector. Or if you need both of these shapes separately, you have to model this, or draw this as a separate vector from this, so that these two sections right here overlap. And that's where we get into layers. And layers are just there to help avoid confusion. So, right now I'm looking at my layer manager up here. I have one layer. And because that's in bold, this is the active layer. So what I will do, because I want this vector here to match this shape right there. I want it to be exactly the same, so it looks like I just have one line here. What I'll do is I'll select those vectors, and I'll select this vector. Then I'll right-click, and I will copy to a new layer, call that layer 2. We'll click OK. So now, I don't know how well this is coming in over the screen share. Now I have pink lines and I have black lines underneath them. I'll come up here to my layer manager and click on layer 2 to make it active. I'll turn off layer 1. So now everything I do out here is only on layer 2. Then I'll just come up here and take my scissors and I'll trim that away. What it did was, because I have the rejoin trim sections automatically when the form is closed, because I have that, this is now one vector. And this shape is a direct copy of my circle out there. Now, a minute ago I had, let me just select it here and make sure that it is one closed vector. It is one closed vector. Now, if I turn on layer 1, I have both. But if I look, I have a doubled up line here. So I'll make layer 1 my active layer, turn off layer 2. So now everything I do out here is just in layer 1. And I can select this. I no longer need it. I can go ahead and delete it. But when I turn on both layers, I have both of my vectors. I have both of my shapes. So that's the reason for using multiple layers, is so that it looks like this vector is joined to this one, but it's not technically joined. You do have an overlap here, but if you, for example, did a profile toolpath, select both of these, do a profile toolpath with a, let's go 0.1, with a 60-degree V-bit, and on the vector, calculate. Now if I preview that toolpath, I didn't make it a separate color, it looks as though this vector is joined to this one, but they are two separate vectors. I have two closed vectors for that bit to follow. So I hope that kind of clears it up. There are certain things you just cannot do with when you're dealing with V-carving and closing vectors. And one of those being, you cannot just draw a line and connect, like in the middle of this span. I just can't draw a line and connect it. They have to be separate, and that's where the use of layers comes in. So I hope that answers that. That, I find, tends to be the most common issue that folks contact me about. So, okay, let's see. Mike CIF says, I was worried that the users meeting would be all about Aspire, but they had a good mix of 2D, VCarve, and 3D. Yes, they did. They try to support all of their products. Now, having said that, support has dropped off to almost nothing when it comes to the old program Photo VCarve. They do still support it, but it hasn't been updated in a long, long time. They have incorporated some of the features from Photo VCarve into VCarve and Aspire, but not Cut 2D. But they haven't incorporated all of the features. So you can do some of the things that you could do in Photo VCarve, in VCarve and Aspire, but you can't do all of them. So I do have the Photo VCarve program. I have never used it. I've got to get into it. I've got 2 projects that need to be done that are not on any kind of a timeline. Good thing. I've had them 4 years. But yeah, they try to support all of their customers and clients. And the only way to do that is to address all of their software. And I think they did a fairly decent job. I really do. The Great Baldini, yes, I posted a question on Facebook about this. I hope I covered that question. So let's see. Leroy CNC and Woodworks. Does the new laser module from Vectric work with the JTech 2.8, or do I need a new post processor? That would be a question for JTech. They are working with JTech, and in fact, Jay Johnson was one of the presenters for this user group meeting. I would go over to JTech's website and see if it's mentioned, because they have been working with Jay as far as development of that laser module. I would be surprised if the post processor didn't work with it. But better safe than sorry. I would go over to JTech's website and look. And if you don't find a cut and dry answer there, send them an email and let them get into it and make sure. It may be an updated post processor. There may be a download you need to do. I don't know. I don't have a laser, and I don't have the laser module. But I got to tell you, after watching those presentations, yeah, one may be on the horizon after I get the new shop, because I mean, there are just some flat out cool things they're doing with this hybrid laser module. And if you go watch some of the presentations, I mean, it was just flat out cool. One of the demonstrations they did was they 3D carved a tiger model, then came back with the laser and used the laser to fill in the detail. And it looked like a tiger. It was flat out cool. And it's just like, oh, holy cow. Let's see. Lewis Denton asks, is the arc common to both vectors cut twice? You're referring to that quick little demonstration I just did. Yes, it is. But if you set up the toolpath to the same cut depth, you can't see that it was cut twice. I mean, and it just took, half a second for it to go through and cut that arc a second time. Inside baseball here, whenever I do a V-carving toolpath, I run it twice anyway. That cleans out a lot of the fuzz in there. And I have to do a lot less finish sanding when I go in to clean up after V-carving. Or if I'm using a profile toolpath to outline something, I always run it twice. Now, having said that, I'm a home hobbyist. I can take the time to do that. If I was trying to get out 500 parts a day, I wouldn't be able to take that time. It would be faster just to sand it on my own, or more efficient anyway. But it's kind of a trade-off. I can take the time to run it twice, especially if it's a 5-minute toolpath. So, let's see. Michael Mazalik says it's a machine issue. Post processors are machine specific. Yes. So, if every machine, well, not every single machine, but machines have different controller softwares and different requirements, and use different not scripts, G code formats, etc. So that's why you'll see so many post processors. Processor for a legacy machine may or may not work with one from Axiom. That's why they are machine specific, because the Axiom needs information that's different, or is formatted different, or set up different than legacy. So your best bet would be to contact A, your machine manufacturer, B, your laser manufacturer, C, Vectric, and ask them. I cannot tell you which post processor to use, whether it be for laser or your machine. Contact your machine's manufacturer. Now, if you're using a generic control software like Mach 3, Mach 4, Linux CNC, WinCNC, whatever, contact that controller software's publisher and talk to them about it. I don't know. I use Mach 3. I don't know if there's a post processor for the laser module for Mach 3, but I'm sure if I go over to the ArtSoft website and ask, I would find out in short order. So, And in fact, Dave Matthews just answered that. Their laser module doesn't have a post for Mach 3 or Linux CNC. Okay, well, then I don't need to be in a hurry for that, but I'm sure somebody will come along. Let's see. Kurt Briegel says the laser for his system was about 800 to add on plus other aspects someday. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But you also have to remember that this is new. The laser module came out with version 10.5. So, um, there are going to be developments that come along. There are going to be additions that come along. There are going to be new posts that come along because, believe me, the guys at Avid are looking at this, and the guys at Axiom are looking at it, and the guys at Legacy are looking at it and going, "Holy cow, we got to get in on this." So, believe me, it's being worked on behind the scenes. So, let's see. David Williams, just backing up 100 years, how can I update my Next Wave laser in VCarve desktop, or should I just reinstall the laser module? I seem to have modified mine somehow. That would be a question for Next Wave Automation. I've never been in the same building with a Next Wave CNC, so I would hate to lead you down the wrong path. I would get a hold of Next Wave tech support and have a chat with them. Let them know what's going on. They know your machine the best. They made it. I would be guessing, and I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. So, let's see. Tony Sanangelo says, I'm setting up my X-Carve this week. Do you recommend a certain first image carving to ensure the XYZ axis are set up properly? Getting anxious. For your first few moves, air cut. Bring your Z-axis up to about the center of its travel and move it around in the air. Don't even put a bit in it. Don't even turn it on. The router or spindle. Run it in the air. And then it doesn't really matter. A short piece of G code is fine. What I do and what I suggest to other folks, when you go to put in a bit and start your brand new cut, your very first cut, I go into my CAD CAM software, draw a square of a known size, something easy, 2 inches by 2 inches, 3 inches by 3 inches. Then in the center of that square, if you make a 3-inch square, in the center of that square, draw a 3-inch circle. Calculate tool paths to cut about a quarter of the way into your material with a V-bit and run it. Then when you get finished running it, measure it. Make sure the 3-inch square is 3 inches. Make sure the circle is a circle and it's the right diameter. Now, because it's a V-bit, you'll be measuring from the center of where that V-bit went in to the center. Make sure you're getting a circle and not an oval. Make sure you're getting a square and not a diamond. Make sure that it's 3 inches by 3 inches, not 3 1/4 by 2 1/2. That will tell you whether you have your machine square, your belt tension is correct, and that the left hand knows what the right hand knows, and they're both doing the same thing and working in sync with one another. That will help you troubleshoot a lot of problems. If it's off to one side where it should, then you know you have an issue. Always check the mechanical first. Always. Settings don't change themselves. If you haven't made any changes in the settings to your software, always look for the mechanical first. Loose belt, loose cogwheel, loose coupler, something like that. So, I hope that helps you out. Just draw a square of a known size, draw a circle in the center of that square with the same diameter as your square width and height, then cut those. and make sure they're square and circles. So, let's see. Maintenance man, and I think, holy cow, it's been 49 minutes. I think this will be the last one. Maintenance man, what is your best advice for a new beginner? Best advice is be patient with yourself. You're going to find the hardest part of this entire process is getting the idea out of your head and into the computer. It looks intimidating. And if you've never done it before and you're just stepping back and looking at all of this stuff, it is intimidating. Try to keep it simple. Break it down piece by piece. Just know nobody started at the top, and everybody who has ever laid their hand on a CNC machine, no matter how much experience they have, has been exactly where you are right now. Okay? Nothing will ever replace experience, but the only way to get that experience is to do it. Keep a list. Let me back up on that and rephrase it. Make checklists. As you read and as you watch videos and as you learn, write things down. Take notes. If you're anything like me, you may do something once and then you won't do it again for 6 or 7 months. Rather than sitting there beating yourself up trying to figure out or remember how you did it, write it down. I don't rely on this memory. I come up with checklists, and I use that checklist. I have a checklist out by the machine right now. If I walked out and turned it on, I would use that checklist because I can't remember every single step. Anybody who has ever hit cycle start in Mach 3, then watched that gantry move over, then realized they didn't turn on the router or didn't turn on the spindle, knows exactly what I'm talking about. There's no way to remember everything. Make a list, use the list, and be easy on yourself at first. You're learning. Nobody starts at the top. Nobody remembers everything, and nobody knows everything. John McCormick says, then remember where you wrote it down. That's why it sits on the keyboard. And it doesn't, excuse me, and it doesn't leave. I learned that in the Army. Pilots with 30 years of experience use checklists because you can't remember everything. And you don't want to be the guy that forgets to flip one switch when you're responsible for the lives of everybody in the aircraft. Well, nobody's gonna, here's knock on wood, nobody's gonna die if I forget to turn the router on, but that can get real expensive real fast. So, take it easy on yourself, learn as much as you can, but practice, use it. The only way to get experience is to do it. That's my suggestion. And free advice is worth every penny you pay for it. So, with that, I think I'll go ahead and say thank you to everybody for spending part of your Sunday with me. I will get these links in the description of this video. Give me about 10 minutes. And so I can collect all the links and put them down in the description. It'll be up near the top. So you just come back in about 10 minutes and they should be all populated. And I'm going to try to I've got 2 ideas for videos for next week. I will try to have it done this time. And we're not sitting here with me fumbling for what the heck to do. But again, everybody stay safe, take it easy, and take care. Have a good one.